Hello guys, so today we shall be discussing regarding the midbrain. Okay, midbrain is also called as mesencephalon. So I hope there are no divisions within the midbrain. For example, in the forebrain, which is also called as prosencephalon, we divided into telencephalon, right? We have divided into diencephalon and all. So but in midbrain there is no division. Midbrain is a single unit which is also called as mesencephalon. But before we discuss the midbrain, I just wanted to discuss that from the midbrain, from the pons and from the medulla oblongata, there are three structures that are arising and they hold the cerebellum in a particular position. So what are these three structures we shall discuss now, and then I'll proceed on to the discussion of midbrain. Okay. So first of all, let me put up this picture that all of you know that this is your cerebral cortex from the lateral side, and after that here you have got your midbrain. This is your midbrain. Now after your midbrain, the next important part you have got is your what is this? This is your pons. Now after this pons, the next important part you have got is your medulla oblongata. Okay, hanging down from the medulla oblongata, you have got this particular structure called as spinal cord. Okay, hanging down you have got this particular structure called as spinal cord. And where is your cerebellum located? Your cerebellum is located on the back side like this. Okay, so this is your cerebellum. Now if cerebellum has to be in a position, right, cerebellum has to be held in a position, then what should you do? What should you do is that from the midbrain there are a group of structures that are going and attaching to the cerebellum. From the pons also there are structures that are attaching, and from the medulla oblongata also there are structures that are attaching. So these three structures over here are called as peduncles, right? What peduncles? These are called as cerebellar peduncles. For example, this one over here is called as a superior cerebellar peduncle. Superior cerebellar peduncle. And next this one over here is called as middle cerebellar peduncle. Okay, and the lower one is called as your inferior cerebellar peduncle. So I just want you to know these three important things. So after discussing that there are three important peduncles, for example, this is called as your superior cerebellar peduncle, right? Next we have got our middle cerebellar peduncle and inferior cerebellar peduncle, right? So these are the three cerebellar peduncles, one coming from the midbrain, one coming from the pons, and the other one coming from the medulla oblongata. They are holding the cerebellum in position. Now after this, what we'll do is that first we will discuss about the midbrain, then we'll go on to the pons, and then later on medulla oblongata. Okay, so let us put on the heading midbrain. So what is the other name for midbrain? Mesencephalon. Mesencephalon is also called as midbrain. Mesencephalon, or you can also call it as midbrain. Okay, mesencephalon or midbrain. Now coming to this mesencephalon or midbrain, what are the important structures which we have over here? So all of you just look at these structures. Yeah. So this right now what we are discussing is we have got many different features, right? For example, we will discuss right now the external features. And what is this picture? This picture is the ventral surface or the anterior surface. Ventral or the anterior surface of the midbrain. Ventral or the anterior surface of the midbrain. So right now we shall mainly focus on the ventral surface or the anterior surface of the midbrain. Okay. So what ventral surface and anterior surface? The external features. We shall right now discuss about the external features of the ventral or the anterior surface of the midbrain. And in this ventral or anterior surface, let me finish up the picture so that we can discuss this surfaces much better. right? So here we have got this ventral or the anterior surface like this, and on the sides also. Right. So if you can see this, so this would be your ventral or the anterior surface. Okay. So in this cut section of the ventral or the anterior surface, we are not discussing about the internal features. Okay. So we'll mainly concentrate on what? We'll mainly concentrate on the external features of the cerebral hemisphere. Now coming to the external features of the cerebral hemisphere, what are the important things you know that you have studied in your med school, guys? Yeah, so just let me shade this out. All of you know that within this midbrain, this is the midbrain, right? So within this midbrain, the central we have got a duct, right? So what will be the name of the duct which is located exactly in the center, through which where your cerebrospinal fluid passes out? What is that? Is that called as foramen of Monroe, or is it called as cerebral aqueduct? So this duct which I'm talking right now, this particular duct which I'm talking right now, this particular duct, right? And this particular duct is surrounded. So what is this opening in the center called as? This yellow color thing which I am drawing, this is your CSF, right? So what is this particular opening in the center here? This is called as cerebral aqueduct. Cerebral aqueduct. This is called as your cerebral aqueduct. Okay, right. Now after this cerebral aqueduct, let me just yeah. Yes. So all of you just look at this picture over here. So this is the cut section of your medulla oblongata. So we are right now discussing about the ventral or the anterior surface, and that also we are mainly focusing on what? We are mainly focusing on the external features, right? Now coming to this external features, first important external feature we spoke about here is that we discussed that this is your cerebral aqueduct. Okay. Now after this cerebral aqueduct, you see this blue color lines which I am drawing, right? Now will this be called as gray matter or white matter? All of you should know, in this particular structure in the midbrain here, the center is called as gray matter, the surrounding is called as your white matter. Okay, so here this particular thing is called as a gray matter. Okay, and surrounding everything whatever you can see, the white color thing is your white matter. And what are these two structures which you can see here, these two bumpy elevations? These two elevations which you can see here are called as superior colliculus. So there are two different types of colliculus. One is called as superior colliculus, another one is called as inferior colliculus. So this structure over here will be called as a superior colliculus. And not to forget that superior colliculus is responsible for the vision and inferior colliculus is responsible for the auditory function. Okay, right. So this is one of the important thing which you need to know. Second important thing, if you see, what are these two important structures? See, what is this and what is this? What are these two important structures? These structures are called as crus cerebri. So this one over here is called as your right crus cerebrus. This is called as the right crus cerebrus, and this one over here is called as left crus cerebrus. So right crus cerebrus as well as the left crus cerebrus. Okay. So once the right and left crus cerebrus are done, if you see exactly on the top of this right and left crus cerebrus, okay, exactly here, see, exactly on top of this right crus cerebrus and on top of this left crus cerebrus. So exactly here you would see a black color substance like this. Okay, let me use another, yeah, see, you would see a black color substance here. Okay, so this is a black color substance which you can see on the top of the right crus cerebrus and left crus cerebrus. Now this black color substance whatever I have drawn is nothing but called as your substantia nigra. Okay, so this particular thing is called as substantia nigra. So what is this substantia nigra? Substantia nigra is located near the right and left crus cerebrus. Now within this substantia nigra, nigra in the sense black, substantia in the sense substance, black substance is called substantia nigra, right? Next, what is present within this substantia nigra? You have got dopaminergic neurons, right, which release the dopamine. So when there is deficiency, when there is damage of this substantia nigra or the dopaminergic neurons, that is what results in Parkinsonism. Okay, so this is your substantia nigra. Next important thing is that here you have got some openings like this. Okay, so here you have got some tiny openings like this. So this tiny openings that are located in the center of the right and left crus cerebrus, these tiny openings are nothing but called as your posterior perforated substance. So these are called as posterior perforated substance. Okay, so these structures over here are called as your posterior perforated substance. Now after this, if you carefully look on the surface of this right crus cerebrus, so this entire thing which I spoke about is your right crus cerebrus, right? Now on the surface of this right crus cerebrus there is one very important structure, and even on the surface of your left crus cerebrus also there is one very important structure. So let us see what are these important structures that are located on the right and left crus cerebrus. For example, on the right crus cerebrus over here, you have got an important structure in this way. You see, there is a very important structure here, and here also there is one very important structure. In the same way, here we have got that same structure, and here also we have got that same structure. So what are these two particular structures which you can see on either side of the crus cerebrus? Yes, what are these two structures which you can see on either side of the crus cerebrus? For example, see this structure over here and this structure over here, they are located laterally or medially? They both are located laterally. So this is called as a sulcus. So sulcus which is located laterally is called as lateral sulcus. So this one over here is called as your lateral sulcus. Okay, and this sulcus which is located medially is called as medial sulcus. Now what is the importance of this sulci? The importance is that from this medial sulcus, you see there are a group of nerve fibers, that are coming out of these medial sulcus in this way. So these group of nerve fibers together, they form the oculomotor nerve or third pair of cranial nerve. Okay, so these group of fibers which are coming out right from the medial sulcus, they form your oculomotor nerve. Or your third pair of cranial nerve. Okay, so that is the reason why medial sulcus is also called as oculomotor sulcus, or you can also call it as oculomotor sulcus. Okay, so these are the important things, and even on the other side also you see oculomotor nerve that is coming out. Next important thing is that exactly in the lower end of this right and left crus cerebrus, you have got a structure that is present like this red color structure which you can see, right? So this structure which is located in the lower end of the crura, this is called as tinea pontis. So what is this structure called as? This structure is called as tinea pontis. So tinea pontis is a structure that is located in the lower end of right and left crus cerebrus. Next important thing is that between the right cerebrus and between the left crus cerebrus, this region which you have, okay, let me highlight this region also. You see this center region which I am highlighting right now, right? So this region whatever you have, where is it located? This is located in between the right and left crus cerebrus, right? So this is called as interpeduncular fossa. What is this called as? This is called as interpeduncular fossa. So this fossa over here is called as interpeduncular fossa, right? So what are the structures we have so far discussed? So the structures which you have so far discussed, first of all, this surface, whatever is there, this is called as a ventral or the anterior surface. Right now we are mainly focusing on the external features of the midbrain. Okay. Now these two are called as superior colliculi. As I have already told you, From the back side, this is the front side, right? This is the front side. Back of this, you can very clearly see superior colliculus, and below that there are inferior colliculus, right? For example, let us say this is a pencil, right? Now here, this is called as a ventral surface or anterior because this is facing you, right? This surface which is facing me, which you cannot see, this is called as a posterior surface or the dorsal surface. So here, exactly here, 1 and 2, there are two swellings on the top, right? There are two swellings on the top. These two swellings on the top are called as your superior colliculus. Okay. Next, below those two swellings, okay, below those two swellings, to make it much more clear, let us say that, see here, right now here, see this surface, whatever you can see is called as an anterior surface, right? Now in this anterior or ventral surface, you can see two swellings. You see, this is one swelling, this is another swelling. These two swellings over here are called as superior colliculus. Now, can you see any other swelling here? You cannot see any other swelling. But I can see 4 swellings here. Why? Because I am looking at the picture from the back, dorsal side, right? So you see on the dorsal side, there is 2 more swellings, 1 and the other swelling. So 2 more swellings are there, and this one is 3 and 4, completely 4 swellings are there here. So from this view, you can see only 2. But from the back or from the dorsal view or from the posterior view, you can see all the 4. So that is the reason why this is a ventral or anterior view. So in this view, I can only see 2 swellings. Back, if I go back of this picture, then I can see the remaining 2 swellings. So this is called as your superior colliculus. Okay, this one is called as your superior colliculus. Now after this superior colliculus over here, after the superior colliculus is responsible for the vision, and inferior colliculus is responsible for the hearing. Okay. Now, how do you remember these? Which are on the top? Eyes are on the top or ears are on the top? Obviously, eyes are on the top. Anything which is on the top is superior. So the colliculus which is related with this also is called a superior colliculus. Next level down here, you have got your ears. So that is responsible by the inferior colliculus. Next, here you have got the central duct called as cerebral aqueduct. Okay. And this is your gray matter over here. And what is this surrounding all this? This surrounding all this is your white matter. And after that, here you have got substantia nigra where your dopaminergic neurons are present. Next, this is your right crus cerebrus and this is your left crus cerebrus over here. In between the two crus cerebri, you have got this structure called as interpeduncular fossa. Within this interpeduncular fossa, you have got what? You have got posterior perforated substance. Okay. Next, on the right crus cerebrus, we have got one is called as the lateral sulcus, another one is called as the medial sulcus. Now, why this medial sulcus is called as oculomotor sulcus? Because you see there are oculomotor nerves that are emerging from the medial sulcus. That is the reason why you call this medial sulcus as oculomotor sulcus or the medial sulcus. So the lower end of the crus cerebri is having this red color structure over here. This red color structure over here is called as your tinea pontis. Okay. So these are the external features of the ventral or the anterior surface. Now next what we shall discuss? Next we shall discuss the external features of the back, I mean the dorsal surface. Okay. So this is all you need to know regarding the midbrain or mesencephalon. Thank you so much for watching my video. Goodbye.